All right, here we go for week number 10 in college football, week number 9 in the NFL. We're going to have to make this really brief. We're recording this pretty late in the afternoon on a Friday. I've got the Breeders' Cup action going on today and tomorrow. We just finished recording the Playbook ATS podcast. That's going to be available, of course, on the Playbook Experts YouTube channel, so check that out. I contribute on that show as well, so contribute to that program. We appreciate it. You are watching this show. Now, I haven't figured out yet whether or not we're going to be posting it on the on the RLEDs channel or the Prime Sports channel, and that is just because of the fact that we want to make sure that we still do our best to send you over to the RLEDs channel because that's important for all of these football shows, NFL, college football, scouting. All of that is going to be primarily on our RLEDs new YouTube channel, so we want to make sure that you're over there. So we're still going to report some shows on this channel on Prime Sports Network, so obviously please keep the subscription here. That's very important. But anyway, let's get going here. Starting in college football, don't forget you want to check out the college football show, which is already available on the RLEDs channel. So that's been up since yesterday with me and Mark. So we went over all the big games and trends and so forth. But like we always do on this show, we're going to kind of wrap up some of the trends we did not talk about on the show. Now, last week, by the way, we had a very good week, very good productive bounce back week in both college football and the NFL. So that was a little bit overdue. So that puts us back in the plus column, I believe. Let me see. We're going to go ahead and throw our picks report up there. Let's see. Yes, we are now over 1,000 here for college football for the season. There's our record. All right. And there's our top picks this week, upsets, picks here. All right. So this is for college football, of course. And we'll be heading into the NFL side in just I always do that in just a little bit. Okay, so what we did not talk about in the SEC, Arkansas, Florida. Arkansas is going to be, as you noticed there, Arkansas is going to be one of our money line plays. We like the fact that they've covered 8 of the last 9 when they're coming off a bye and in a revenge situation like they are this week in conference games since 2014. These two teams have not played since 2020. But there are still players on this team that remember Arkansas, Florida winning 63-35, so there's a little revenge factor. By the way, new offensive coordinator off the bye for Arkansas. The offense just not doing anything. So the new offensive coordinator is Kenny Guyton. He's the former wide receiver coach, or still is probably, but he has now taken over the offensive coordinator role, so he's running the offense. And I would expect a little bit of, this KJ Jefferson has only a few more games left, and Florida, I just don't know what's going on there. I'm not so sure how they're going to react to the loss to Georgia because they just it took one smack in the mouth and they were down, out for the count. They did not respond. And I just Billy Napier's got his hard work cut out for him. By the way, they're just 2-5 against the spread as a home favorite under Napier. South Carolina over Jacksonville State. Now, you have to commend Rich Rod and the job he's done with this Conference USA new FBS program. But keep this in mind, the 2 toughest opponents they played this year, they both lost straight up ATS, Coastal Carolina and Liberty, by a 61-29 margin. Their best win this year, 4-4 Western Kentucky. So they've done a very good job to go to 7-2, but they're taking advantage of the weaker opponent. South Carolina, meanwhile, this is the SEC. They're graduating. They're from the worst conference in college football versus the best conference in college football. That's what we have going on here. And South Carolina does not have a tough schedule the rest of the way. They need to win out to go bowl eligible. And remember, they had a very good end of the year last year. And their losses, North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, when they lost with 47 seconds left, Missouri, and Texas A&M. So they lost to all the better teams in the SEC. So schedule-wise, we know clearly who's played the tougher schedule. And South Carolina is only a 15-point favorite in this one, which is why we like them in this spot. Missouri and Georgia, we did talk about the game, but interesting notes here. Georgia's won, of course, 9 straight. That's not a surprise, really. But Georgia 2-10 against the spread off a double-digit ATS win when they take on an opponent coming off a bye, which Missouri is. So this is a big test for Eli Drinkwitz and the Tigers at 7-1 this year. Road this year, true road, they've covered and won both games. Auburn's one of our better plays this week against Vandy. They're only a 12.5-point favorite in this one. They need 2 more wins for bowl eligibility. They have covered 9 straight as a road favorite of more than 3 when they take on losing teams. Meanwhile, Vandy 6-21 against the spread. Their last 27 as a home dog. And Auburn 12-1 against the spread when they take on an opponent off a double-digit straight-up loss. Kentucky, Mississippi State. Both teams need wins for bowl eligibility. The Bulldogs only 3-9 against the spread, their last 12 as a home dog. But Kentucky 0-3 straight up ATS last 3. Home team in the series has covered 9 straight. LSU, Alabama, of course, that's a huge one that we talked about on the College Football Show. You want to know what we said about that game? Check out the College Football Show. Big Ten, Nebraska is one of our top picks this week. They've won 5 out of 6. They've also covered 10 of 11 off a straight-up home win when they're taking on an opponent off a double-digit straight-up loss. They're 1-0 in that spot this year. And Michigan State 0-3 straight up against the spread as a home dog by a 121-16 margin. Wisconsin, Indiana, we used this trend already this year. We're going to use it again. In Tom Allen, when his team is a dog, that's Indiana, of course, they are 3-14 against the spread. And that's with a losing record and a dog. Losing record, dog, 3-14 against the spread, 0-8 when they were at home in that spot. This year, 0-1 in that spot, lost to Rutgers, and 1-2 outside of the home field. But they're at home. And they're a 9-point dog, 9.5-point dog against Wisconsin. Okay, Rutgers and Ohio State. Rutgers 2-1-1 against the spread. They're less 4 against Ohio State, but keep in mind those are really big lines. And Ohio State 9-0 straight up in the last 9 years against Rutgers, since they've been Big Ten foes all time by a 42 points per game winning margin. Penn State and Maryland. You got a Penn State team that seems to be reeling a little bit, but they still have a shot to take on Michigan next week, so they need to make sure they don't get a hiccup here against a Maryland team that's 0-3 straight up against the spread in their last 3, including losing 2 as double-digit favorites. Iowa Northwestern, wanted to mention this because Iowa's covered 8 straight as a Big Ten road favorite of 4 or more when they take on an opponent in a revenge situation. This is going to be, by the way, at Wrigley. So, not a true road game, but it is going to count as a road game nonetheless. Minnesota is a short favorite against Illinois, and Minnesota 4-0 straight up, 3-1 against the spread as a home favorite this year, including 3-0 straight up and against the spread in their last 3. Michigan, in their last 4, has won by a 198-24 margin. They're taking on a Purdue team. Of course, these two teams faced each other in the Big Ten championship game last year. Purdue 0-3, straight up and against the spread in their last 3, including the last 2 by a 72-21 margin. In the ACC, Wake Forest, Duke tonight. Not sure you're going to get this in, but anyway, if you do, Wake Forest is covered. Actually, no, this is Thursday night. What am I talking about? We're on Friday. See, my head is even gone into what day it is. This is the game I wanted to talk about. Boston College and Syracuse. Again, not sure I'm going to get it in, but we do like Boston College tonight because this is more of an anti-Syracuse thing. If you've been watching the show the last few weeks, you're not surprised by that. Syracuse has lost their last 4 straight up and against the spread by a 150-34 margin. Notre Dame and Clemson. And this is only the actually, if you think about it, Clemson's a home dog, and they've only been a home dog once, which was this year, since 2017. So Notre Dame, meanwhile, 15-5 against the spread, their last 20 against the ACC, 14-5 against the spread, their last 19 as a road favorite. Also in the ACC, Georgia Tech and Virginia taking on each other. These are upstarts heading in the right direction, but Georgia Tech's really the only one that has a shot at a ball. And an interesting trend here in the series, Virginia has won 4 out of 5 straight up and against the spread over Georgia Tech. They've also covered 4 straight on the year. And Georgia Tech has not been to a bowl since 2018. No way they'll be able to win 2 of the last 3 based on their schedule. That'd be a shock. If they don't win this one, I think they're out of it. They're 7-2 against the spread as a road dog under their head coach, Brent Key. With 5 outright upsets. Not a big line. It's only 1.5 right now. Virginia Tech, you know how much we liked them last week. We're going to go with them again this week. Louisville, tough one, though. They're 4-0 straight up, 3-0 against the spread at home. But Virginia Tech, 3-1 straight up, 4-0 against the spread in their last four. So this is a really good contrast between these two teams. So it's going to be a little bit of a tough one, though, for Virginia Tech, but I'm going to ride them and see if it works out. Meanwhile, NC State, Miami, NC State 4-1-1 against the spread, their last six as a home dog, and 1-7 against the spread at home off a straight-up ATS win, taking on Miami. In the Big 12, you have... let's see. Yeah, the Kansas. Actually, we didn't cover this trend against Kansas State Texas trend. Texas is 3-16 against the spread after they score 35 or more points, and they take on an opponent in a revenge situation, which Kansas State is in this spot. We like Houston in a short dog roll against Baylor. They've covered 10 straight in the second of back-to-back road games. Meanwhile, Baylor, they have not been a favorite this year since the Week 1 loss to Texas State as a 26-point favorite. And Baylor has been out-yardaged in 6 of 7 FBS games this year. We're taking Central Florida against Cincinnati in this Big 12 matchup. Both teams are not looking good this year. The home team has won 4 out of 5 in the series and covered 5 straight years in the series, which means take Cincinnati, but I'm not. I'm taking Central Florida because Central Florida is, in my mind, just a better team, even though they're on the road. If you want to know what we thought about the Oklahoma State matchup, you could check that out on the College Football Show. West Virginia, we took them in the match. That line just keeps going up, though. We had them at 8 to start the week. It went up to 10. I believe that's where we have them on the show. It's now up to 12. I mean, it's crazy how the line's gone up. BYU in road games versus the Big 12 this year, 0-3, straight up and against the spread by a 117-44 margin. So that is obviously the part of the reason we're taking West Virginia, who we liked last week, don't forget, as a 6-7 point dog on the road in their win over Central Florida. Kansas, Iowa State. We took Iowa State in that game. We talked about that one on the show. Keep in mind, Iowa State needs one win for a bowl. They're 11-2 against the spread in the last 13 as a Big 12 home favorite of less than 7. Pac-12. We talked about some of these games as well. We did not mention Washington State, Stanford. We like Washington State in this one. They're 6-0 straight up and against the spread the last 6 years versus Stanford. Stanford, meanwhile, 5-14 against the spread, their last 19 as a road dog. Also, Utah is an 11-point favorite against Arizona State. They're 20-6 against the spread in their last 26 as a home favorite, 3-0 in that spot this year. They've also won and covered against Arizona State the last 3 years. But Arizona State, 10-3-1 against the spread. Their last 14 as a road dog, 2-0 in that spot this year. We are not touching that game. UCLA, Arizona, Washington, USC. Those are two of the big games, and we talked about those games on the College Football Show. In the group of 5, we like Navy this week. Surprised the line is only like 6.5. I know Warner's back, and that's a big deal. But even when Warner was there, Temple wasn't covering games. They're 0-7 against the spread this year, which is obviously pathetic. They're 1-15 straight up in the final 5 games of a season in the last 3 years, plus 0-1 already after last week. But that's straight up, not against the spread. Navy, 7-1 against the spread in their last 8 as a road favorite. 1-0 in that spot this year. They're off a bye. Texas San Antonio at North Texas. North Texas starting to play better. Even though they've lost 3 out of 4, they've covered the last 4. And, well, actually, is that the one I'm looking at here? Yes, that is what I'm looking at, because that is in their last 4 games, they have played AAC teams. And this is their first year in the AAC. So far, not so good with the 1-3 record, but they are hanging in there covering those 4 games. This is a rematch of the AAC championship game, the Conference USA, championship game. Now these two teams playing in the AAC. UTSA, meanwhile, 8-3 against the spread as a road favorite under Jeff Traylor, 2-0 in that spot this year. North Texas won 4 straight at home against Texas San Antonio, including the last 2 by 90-26. My, have things changed. We like South Florida against Memphis. We're going to go with the outright upset in this one. But I definitely would go with the line, and here's why. Memphis is only 1-13 against the spread as a home favorite when they take on an opponent off a bye. They are 3-10-1 against the spread as a home favorite under head coach Ryan Silverfield. 0-1-1 in that spot this year. Meanwhile, South Florida, get this, they're 3-1 straight up, 4-0 against the spread as a dog this year. That's the spot for South Florida. They're getting 14 over 4-1 on the money line. Now you know why I'm taking South Florida and rolling the dice on the money line. We also like Charlotte against Tulsa. They're a 4-point dog there. They're 4-0 against the spread as a road dog this year, including one upset win. SMU and Rice, we talked about this game. This is the biggest game, by the way, in the conference. You want to know what we thought about this game, including the trends, check out the College Football Show. In the Mountain West Conference, Wyoming against Colorado State. That's tonight. They've covered 8 straight as a home favorite of less than 17 when they take on an opponent off a straight-up loss. The dog in the series, though, has won 2 out of 3 and covered the last 3 years. Army Air Force tomorrow. Army not playing good football. They've lost 5 straight. They're 0-4-1 against the spread in those 5, and they've been shut out twice, and now they got to play Air Force's defense. Air Force, meanwhile, just 2-4 straight up, 1-5 against the spread. Their last 6 against Army. Last 5 in the series has been decided by 7 or less. I get the feeling that's going to change. What else do we have for you? We're taking Nevada against Hawaii, even though the dog in this series is 6-1 straight up and against the spread in the last 7 years. And that includes Hawaii with 4 upset wins. That's just because Nevada's a better team than Hawaii. But I wanted you to know that in case you wanted to go ahead and side with Hawaii in that one. Nevada has covered 5 of the last 6 this year, and they've won their last 2 after a 16-game losing streak. Hawaii, meanwhile, 0-7 against the spread in their last 7 games. UNLV covered again for us last week. Big cover team for us this year. The road team in the UNLV New Mexico series has covered 6 straight in the series. UNLV has covered all 4 on the road this year and 6-1 overall. Meanwhile, the Lobos are 2-7-1 against the spread in their last 10 as a home dog, 1-1 in that spot this year. We're taking Utah State against San Diego State. Utah State covered 13 straight off double-digit spread loss when they take on an opponent off a straight-up against the spread loss. And Utah State, this is a rematch of their 2021 championship game win at San Diego State, 46-13 as a 6-point dog in that spot. Boise and Fresno taking on each other. Fresno has dropped 4 straight covers, and they've lost 3 straight regular season at Boise, even though they've won the last 2 championship games against Boise. Boise 1-8 against the spread off a double-digit ATS win. And finally, I think this is the last one in the Sun Belt. Lafayette's won 5 straight and covered 3 out of 5 against Arkansas State. We're taking Lafayette in this one because they are coming off a very convincing win last week, and that was a big one for them. They are not very good, though, as a road favorite, just 3-8. But they've covered 5 straight after they played South Alabama, who they upset last week. And Arkansas State, 0-4 straight up and against the spread when they took on winning teams this year by a 174-23 margin. And a couple more. Coastal Carolina at Old Dominion. We're not touching this game, but Coastal has covered 11 straight in a revenge situation when they take on teams with a winning percentage of 300 or better. Old Dominion, by the way, who almost came up with that big double-digit 19-point upset last week. They upset Coastal Carolina last year as an 11-point road dog, 49-21. And Old Dominion has covered 6 straight games this year. But Coastal is also playing good football. They've won and covered their last 3, including 2 outright upsets. So now you probably get a better feeling of why we're staying away from it. Southern Miss against Louisiana Monroe. Southern Miss 0-7 straight up, 1-6 against the spread versus the FBS this year. But ULM is 0-6 straight up and 3-3 against the spread in their last 6. Finally, Marshall and App State. Marshall 2-6 against the spread in their last 8 with a revenge situation. And meanwhile, Marshall in the last 3 years of this renewed rivalry has won 2 out of 3 and covered the last 3. That's college football. Now on to the NFL. So let's switch over the picks here from college football to the NFL. All right, so there's our NFL picks, our straight up picks, and then our upsets. We have one upset, I believe, in there. Oh, wait, there it is. Wow, I'm glad I got that up. All right, there's all our picks. There's our top picks, and there's our one lone upset pick. Okay, so let's get into the NFL before we wrap it up here, and let's start. Let's see, where should we start? Got my paperwork all messed up from the last show. I guess we're going to go ahead and start here. Miami and Kansas City. No, let's not start with that game because we don't have a whole lot there. Let's do this. Arizona, Cleveland, because this is one of the games we do like this week. And by the way, we might see both Deshaun Watson and Kyler Murray in this game, which would be kind of crazy. Cleveland's only 8-13 against the spread as a home favorite under Kevin Stefanski, but they're 1-0 in that spot this year. They're also 3-1 straight up and against the spread at home this year. Arizona's 1-3 against the spread as a road dog this year, even though they're 4-4 overall. The rookie is supposed to start the game, by the way. We're taking the Rams over the Packers. How can you take the Packers right now the way they're playing? I don't care if Stafford's playing or not. If they play the Brett Rippon, well, they got the backup quarterback to rally around. But Sean McVay has covered, he's all-time 7-0 against the spread on the road after his team has allowed 35 or more points as a head coach of the LA Rams. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Rams in this spot. Packers 0-6 against the spread in the last 6 games. Not good football there, especially on offense. Tampa Bay and Houston, I mentioned this trend on the Playbook show. Houston 6-0 all-time straight up and against the spread when they take on an NFC South opponent, and they have a losing record. 1-0 in that spot this year. That's pretty crazy. Even though that's the case, I'm siding with Tampa Bay. I just think Tampa Bay, tell you the truth, I'm not so sure there's a difference in who's better or not. And at least Tampa Bay is coming off a pretty decent effort against Buffalo. That was a road game. They're 2-1 straight up, 3-0 against the spread on the road. Houston 0-2 straight up and against the spread as a favorite this year. 4-12-1 in their last 17 as a favorite. How many times have we talked about it? Teams that are not used to winning, that are rebuilding, have young players, very hard for them to be favorites. So that's exactly the spot that Houston's in. By the way, not only is Tampa Bay in a good spot on the road, but so is Washington if you want to take them against New England. Washington, same as Tampa, 2-1 straight up, 3-0 against the spread on the road this year. Meanwhile, let's move on over to this one. How about this trend? New Orleans, we're not taking this game, but actually, I don't think we're taking this game, but head coach Dennis Allen, 1-14 against the spread all time, off a straight up against the spread win. That's bad. 0-1 in that spot this year. And the reason I'm not taking this game, the Bears are 6-14 on the road in their last 20 against the spread, and 0-8 against the spread their last 8 after allowing 35 or more when they take on a conference opponent. We are taking Indianapolis against Carolina in the Frank Reich Bowl. Colts are 2-1 straight up and against the spread on the road this year, and they've covered 9 straight off a double-digit spread loss when they take on an opponent off a straight-up win, which the Panthers are. I just can't see the Panthers winning 2 straight either. Vegas gets a new head coach, Antonio Pierce. O'Connell, the young kid, is going to be the quarterback. The Giants have covered 3 straight games, and their 2 losses have only been by 8 points. But the Raiders are 2-1 straight up and against the spread at home this year. 5 of their next 6 are at home. I have a feeling that the Raiders with Pierce are going to be energized, home game. Giants off the disgusting loss. I don't even know who's going to quarterback for the Giants. I mean, I'm assuming it's going to be Taylor, but I mean, maybe Jones plays. I don't know. I haven't heard anything yet about who's playing the quarterback for the Giants, but I don't know. This is just more of I think the Raiders are just going to come out because look, it's not like they've actually played pretty good football at home. It's the road games this year that they've looked awful. Also, Dallas and Philly. Dallas has won and covered 4 of the last 5 in this series. But the Eagles have some pretty good trends. They've covered 7 straight before a bye and 8-1 against the spread at home when they take on a division opponent off a straight-up division win. And that's the Eagles. Okay, so 2 more to go. And that is the primetime games. And Cincinnati happens to be our top game of the week. Right now, the line has dropped to 1.5, which I think is just crazy. The Bengals, and we said this, I think last week or the week before, they are 19-5 straight up, 19-4-1 against the spread in the last 24 non-division matchups. 4-1 straight up this year, 3-1-1 against the spread this year. They've also covered 13 straight as a non-division favorite of 3 or more. Again, if it's 3, off a non-division game, 1-0 in that spot. They're also 2-1 straight up, 3-0 against the spread versus the Buffalo Bills since 2017, including the upset playoff win last year. And the Bills 0-4 against the spread in their last 4. And the the Chargers against the Jets. We're taking the Chargers in that one. Yes, even though it's my Jet team off a 3-game winning streak, but I don't know. I think unless you see a different offensive situation for the Jets, I know the offensive line has been the biggest issue. So unless the Jets come out looking much better offensively, they're just not going to win another ugly defensive game. They're just not. You can't do that. You can't keep doing that. So I'm going to take the Chargers in this one. Chargers, though, have not beaten a winning team this year. Okay, they're 0-3 straight up and against the spread. So you do have to keep that in mind. The Jets are about to embark on 3 of their next 4 primetime games. Next week at Las Vegas on Sunday Night Football. Then they're at Buffalo. Then they host Miami on Friday football on that Black Friday thing. That's going to do it. I'm going to get out of here. We did a good time of shrinking this report, and I talked as fast as I could because I have so much to do. But again, we want to tell everybody, please subscribe to our new RLads channel because if in fact I have posted this on the Prime Sports Network channel, we're not going to be doing this much longer. So want to get you over there. Keeping in mind, we're still going to do stuff here on this channel for football, but all of our football stuff is going over to the Arlez Football Channel, YouTube channel, I should say. So please subscribe to that channel and keep your subscription here, though, for sure. That's also very important. And stay tuned for some awesome football shows. Matter of fact, I'm already in the mix now that we've got the new YouTube channel. We're moving things along also on the Arlads website. We're in the middle of putting together a lot of new relationships with beat writers from different teams. So we're going to have tons of more coverage in the NFL and college football on a daily basis real soon. So it's just kind of playing catch up. That's the thing. And all these new channels we're moving over and creating. So, but promise me when it's all said and done, you're going to want to have subscriptions if you're a football fan to the RLads channel. Keeping, of course, your subscription here to Prime Sports Network. Enjoy your football this week, and we'll see you again next week.